Somebody once said sawdust is man glitter. They're right. Sawdust is man glitter. Greetings, friends and fellow cigar bongs, guitar enthusiasts. Del Puckett here. We are making a mess. Carving up this neck. Now this neck has paint on it, and the reason being is because this is being crafted from what used to be a drawer. So I took it apart and noticed that the grain was like super straight, super tight. Look how tight those grains are in there. My gosh, this is just incredible. So I'm leaving the paint on here and there just to nod to the fact that it was actually once something else. And I do 3 cuts basically after I glue the heel to the neck. Of course, I measure everything out and I make sure the heel's in the right spot and glue it all up. But after that is when I make the cuts. Now, I usually start with a round file, and there's probably better tools and better methods. I've certainly seen cleaner work than mine, but I just start with a round file. And then one of the cuts is I'll go to the table saw and I'll put the table saw up just about 1/8 of an inch barely, and I'll just go back and forth here and then take off that. That's one way to do it. You can actually see those cut marks here. Another way to do it is just to set your table saw up really high and do a saw blade thickness cut off the top. Again, this is just to create the headstock, and this thickness here has to match the thickness of the tuner. So that's real important here. And there's no like right or wrong or specified dimension here. You're just gonna go by feel. Personally, I like a little bit more mass here on the headstock, just for strength in my mind. I think that probably the more the merrier up here. Okay, so that's the first cut. If you don't include the filing here, but if you did it just that way, you could do that and then go back and file it after. It doesn't matter. This is the first cut. The second cut is I actually notch it right here, and I do the same trick. I turn this thing over, I set the saw blade up just high enough, and then I just go over this, zing, 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 right exactly where, of course, I did measure exactly where I wanted this fretboard to go, so, and then just line it off right there. So this is going, and the thickness here, very important, the thickness here has to match the thickness of the top of your box. This one here is a real thick box, so that means that this thickness here has to be thicker. That's the second cut, is this depth here, which is the depth of the top of the box. The third cut is the notorious back angle. I'm not really sure if you'll be able to see it necessarily on here. Maybe you can, because this bottom line right here, the glue line, that's your straight line. And you can see how it's gonna be thicker here right above my index finger. Thicker there than it is over here. Now over here I can go back and file it down just a little bit. This is my first rough cut, but it's at an angle, a slight angle going down this way. And this is for high action over here and low action over here. I've explained that many times. And then finally, if you want to even call this a cutting step, I just route off these lines right here. And you can see I do my router just a little bit deep to kind of create this imprint on both sides, right? You say, why do you do that? You don't have to do that. It's just, again, this is all just preference. You don't have to do this. By all means, you could certainly lower the depth on this thing here and take away that edge right there. But what I like to do is I like to have a little, this is not even I mean, it's just about maybe the thickness of a business card, if that at all. And I go back and I file that out. And what that does is that actually gives me, in my opinion, right, this is just my opinion, a more slender taper on the top. And it's all really just about feel at this point here, because your hand's going to be on the back here, and you're going to be able to feel that extra taper. I've played guitars that don't have that, and they're fine. It's just that, but once you get the feel behind the neck, look how small that is. That is like a fraction of an inch, the depth there. But trust me, it really makes a difference, in my opinion. So then after much filing and sanding, again, this is just a rough sanding, and we glue fretboard on. So yeah, so we are technically making plenty of man glitter. Check this out. So this is what you do. Go down to your local pawn shop and find a piece of crap. A guitar, just one of the, dude, they're a dime a dozen. They're cheapy. You can find them thrift stores or whatever. It doesn't matter because you're just going to get it for the parts. Right here, this one here happens to be one of the knockoff Fender Stratocaster style necks. The reason I'm saying this is because I have been carrying around this Telecaster neck for years and years and years, and I finally decided, what the heck, why don't I just build a cigar box guitar out of that neck? So I searched high and low and I found this nice size Cohiba. It's a genuine Cuban. I got a piece of wood that was long enough to reach all the way to the back, and I just screwed it in, and then I screwed that wood to the box. And of course this is a string through style bridge, and I had to put this little spacer underneath there because I wanted a back angle here. So you can see this back angle going up to high action here. And so that little spacer, it wasn't no big deal. I just traced out where the holes were going to go and where the screws were going to go, and then I measured twice because I wanted to make sure everything was in perfect alignment, but all the strings on both sides straight with the neck. So this one here is, don't kid yourself, man. The alignment on these things is absolutely critical. Alignment in this axis and then this axis here, so you get the perfect action. Now these guys here have a screw on the inside here, right in there for the truss rod. And so if I make my truss rods, I got to take the strings off, unscrew this, take the neck out, make the truss rod adjustment. Hopefully I get it right. Put it all back together, put the screws back in, put the strings back on, see where it's gonna land. It's like, oh, I went too far, dang it. Take the strings off, take the screws out, take the thing, adjust it back to where you think it's gonna be, put it back together, put the screws back in, put the strings on. So yeah. So if you can have access to your truss rod adjustment, in this case here, it happens to be here. Some guitars are up here, right here. This one here happens to be inside the underside of the neck there. So anyhow, we went back and forth several times, and we finally got it to where this string action, where the neck is absolutely perfectly straight, and the string action is super slinky. Now these are the 9 guitars strings, which means they are super wiggly. But anyhow, this is what I want to do in this part of this lesson here. I'm going to do a real simple blues thing where it's just E, G, A, E. Real common bluesy type progression, but I'm going to show you some really cool, I think they're really cool, interesting techniques to solo over just that simple chord progression. So we are plugged into the Roland Microcube, and we are also plugged into this Strymon Timeline, and it's got the looper setting. So you don't have to use this specific looper. Just find a looper that you like. This one here does, I think, 30 seconds, but I like longer loop times, but you got to go with what you got. So that's the equipment that we're using. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a loop. So I'm tuned regular E. So the trick with the loop is stepping on the 1. You got to count 1, 2, 3, 4, step, 2, 3. So here's our rhythm. E, G, A. 1, 2, 3, 4. So again, we step on the 1. 1, 2, buckle my shoe. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, step 2. Fortunately, this thing here is I can shut it off. Turn it back on. Shut it off. Turn it on. Turn it on. Turn it on. Turn it on. So there's a whole bunch of ways to look at this. You can just solo and whatever feels right. Here's an example of that. You just let your fingers and your ears kind of lead you around, and you just play around, and then you like the notes that you like, and you keep them, and you don't like the notes that you don't like, and so you kick them out, and so you just repeat the notes that you like. That's probably the best way to do it. Now, if you want to get technical, you can break down the pentatonics and the modes and the majors and the minors. I mean, there's so many different things that you can do. One thing that you can do is you can divide up this progression into two halves. The first half is the E. You want to think of that as like its own scale, and you can do the pentatonic, the blues scale, you can do that, or you can think of it as a major. From here's the E, the arpeggio, you could think of it as the E7, Mixolydian, dominant 7, whatever. If you play the E chord as a 7 chord, or however you play your 7 chord, so many different ways you can play that 1 chord. So you think of that chord all by itself as a separate entity, and then the G, you could think of that as the 4 and 5 chord of the key of D. I know that sounds weird, but if you think of it as the key of D, this is the way it's going to sound. So I'm going to do the E major, and I can even do an E major pentatonic on that E. On that E section, I'm going to do major E major pentatonic, or E Mixolydian scale, however you want to think of it. Those are the notes for the E section. And then for the other half, the G to A, it'd be a D major. And you'd also have that D pentatonic, or B minor. And what that's going to do is it's going to like flavor it up, kind of give it a little spice here. This way it sounds. And then you can do repeating licks. But I like to go back. You can even make up words. In the days of my youth, I was told what it means to be a man. Now I've reached that age, I try to do all those things the best I can. But no matter how I try, I find my way into that same old jam. Good times, bad times, you know I've had my share. Won't live home with a blind man, I still don't seem to care, no. Chord. I know what you're saying. 6 strings or 3 strings too many. Well, when you have more strings, granted you're gonna have more tension on your neck, more of a need to tighten your truss rod, more strings to tune, more actions to set. It's a larger pain in the butt. Seriously, it is a larger pain in the butt. You're probably wondering why I put the strap down here on the bottom. So I put it here on the top, but over here I put it on the bottom. This is a trick I learned from Brett Gardner of the Cigar Box Guitar Serenaders. And I saw him do this, and I'm like, oh. So I asked him the question, why'd you do that? And he says, well, if I put it here, this thing's going to want to lean down, right? Because of the weight of the neck, right? It's going to want to go down. But when you put it down here, and you put it back here just a little bit, it kind of just stays right there. So you're not like fighting having to lift the neck all the time, because I guess you have more gravity on this side or whatever. So whatever the case is, if you try putting your strap button on the bottom there, I mean, it's going to interfere just a tiny bit, but you get used to it after a while. All right, guys, that is it for this video. This is a single coil pre-wire kit with volume and tone, and I dug through all of my junk, right, and I found just some random ones here. I just wanted to be different on this one here. The tone here. It's got a nice little sweep to it, but obviously the volume. I did not do any sound holes on here, so this is technically an electric guitar. So anyhow, yeah, so go down to the pawn shop, guys. Do yourself a favor. Find yourself a hunk of junk, and then go to your local cigar store, find a nice box that'll fit. Get yourself a block of wood, bolt them together, jam them in the box, put in a pickup. You can get all your parts at cbgiddy.com. There is an affiliate link in the video description below. And then what you do is you get some tuners, you string it up, you tune it up, and you tear it up. All right, guys, that is it for this video.
chilling.